Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, our negotiating strength at the UN depends on having our allies standing with us. This weekend, President-elect Trump gave an interview to European journalists in which he undermined that unity by yet again disparaging NATO as obsolete and threatening to start a trade war with the European Union. Last week, General James Mattis, President-elect Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, testified that President Putin, quote, is trying to break the North Atlantic Alliance, and noted that if we did not have NATO today, we would need to create it. Do you agree with President-elect Trump that NATO is obsolete, or do you agree with General Mattis that it is vital?
I think NATO is an important alliance for us to have, and now we need more allies than ever, and we need more alliances than we've ever had, and I think it's one that we need to strengthen.
So what would you say to our allies about the need for us to stay together in our resistance to especially the Russian attempts to destroy that alliance?
Well, I think that's a great question, because you will see me, if confirmed, all over the UN, making sure that they understand the importance of alliances and allies and working together where we can for the greater good.
Yep. There are some that wish to have the United States placating Russia, making concessions to Russia that go right at the core of what the key alliance that NATO represents has been providing as security for the world for generations. And from my perspective, but I think from the United States perspective generally, NATO is not only not obsolete, it's essential. It's the key to making sure that Russia understands that there is no room on a partisan basis that exists in our country in terms of our commitment to resisting, Russian incursion. So from my perspective, I'm glad to hear your answer, and I thank you for it. On the question of global health, in Haiti, I talked to you about this in my office yesterday. The United Nations peacekeeping force from Nepal actually introduced cholera into a country that had never had cholera before in the year 2010, after the earthquake in Haiti. 800,000 people have contracted cholera. 9,000 have died from it. It was created by a Nepal peacekeeping UN mission that actually brought that disease to the country by their introduction of it into the water system with their own human waste. Thus far, there has been no real UN financial commitment to cleaning up the sanitation system in that country so that they don't have to worry that every time a hurricane comes through, like it did in October of 2016, that it just once again raises up this cholera issue. Can you talk a little bit about what you feel the United Nations responsibility is to countries like Haiti, where the peacekeeping mission has in fact wound up creating more harm than any that was ever reduced by the introduction of that peacekeeping mission?
Yes, sir, Senator. Thank you for that question. I will tell you what happened in Haiti is just nothing short of devastating. And it is the reason why I think every peacekeeping mission needs to be looked at thoroughly to make sure that things are moving in the right direction. But it's also why I think it's so important that the contributing countries take responsibility and take actions against those violators that are doing anything to harm the people that they're supposed to be protecting. And so I think that was a terrible problem. And so we have to acknowledge the fact that there were peacekeepers involved in that there were peacekeepers that contributed to that. And it is really that action that I think we can use to show that these contributing countries have to stand up and take responsibility and be accountable for those causes that they happen to do during peace missions.
And you would argue for increased financial commitment from the countries around the world so that that funding could go into Haiti in order to help with their sanitation system?
Those violating countries need to be held accountable, and they need to have that responsibility of resolving that problem.
The problem is that Nepal does not have the financial capacity to remediate the problem, but they actually created the problem in the name of all the countries in the world that are part of the United Nations. So it would be necessary to ensure that all of the other countries that use the Nepalese military as their agent to then be held accountable as well financially.
Right, and there's two things, and I don't know if you were in the room when I said it. I think that one, it's very important that we get other countries to contribute to our peacekeeping missions because they have to have skin in the game. Because when these things happen, they will help the United States be more accountable, hold these peacekeepers more accountable, hold these contributing countries more accountable, and we should decide, should we use their peacekeepers again? Because I think that's another conversation that needs to be had. We're going to have to make this right with Haiti, without question, and the UN is going to have to take responsibility, and I hope that we can have peacekeeping reform in the process while we do that.
Yeah, thank you. 85% of the Security Council's peacekeeping personnel actually serve in Africa.
Yes.
And the UN is deeply involved in ending conflict there. But much of the conflict is caused by poverty. It's caused by disease. President Bush initiated a program, PEPFAR, to deal with the HIV/AIDS epidemic in Africa. Mr. Tillerson testified last week about his strong support for that program and pointed out that it should be continued and enhanced. Could you talk a little bit about how you view the PEPFAR program in terms of going forward in the future and the funding levels that would be needed to make it the success it has been thus far?
I think PEPFAR, you can look at the results and see the success. You can look at the numbers and the lives that have been affected by that. And I think it's one of the successful programs that happen at the United Nations, and I certainly would continue to support it going forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.